Look closely at the figure collapsed over the bar table. This is Kenneth Harwood, a 61-year-old circuit court judge who built his reputation on maximum sentences and zero tolerance. Now notice the woman seated across the room. She isn't here for drinks or conversation. She's here for something far darker. In a few moments, she'll stand up and make her way toward where the judge sits. She reaches his table, and in one smooth gesture, her hand hovers briefly over his glass of bourbon. A deadly poison drops into the amber liquid, then she's gone. The bartender finally approaches the judge's table. It looks like a routine check on a regular customer, but there's more to it. She's part of this too. She's here to make sure he finishes what's left in that glass. Harwood, barely conscious now, lifts the bourbon to his lips and swallows the last drops. He won't walk out of here alive. The reason for what happened at the Crescent Room that day didn't start with a sudden decision. It began 24 months earlier, back in September 2006, inside a Mobile County courtroom. Standing before the bench was Raymond Poole, a 24-year-old facing armed robbery charges for holding up a convenience store. His record was clean of violent crimes. His lawyer pleaded for mercy, pointing out that the gun wasn't loaded and nobody got hurt. Judge Kenneth Harwood sat above it all, listening to the defense make their case for a lighter sentence. He rejected it without explanation. Then he handed down the harshest penalty the law allowed, 12 years behind bars in state prison. Every single day of that trial, there was someone in the front row. Denise Poole, Raymond's 39-year-old aunt, who'd been raising him since his mother died when he was 11. When Harwood announced the sentence, she lost control and screamed at him from where she sat. Bailiffs rushed over and dragged her out of the courtroom. The court made note of her outburst, but no criminal charges were ever filed. Denise Poole maintained an appearance of normalcy. She showed up for her job as a clerk in a medical records office, kept up with her rent and utilities, and made the monthly trip to St. Clair Correctional Facility to see her nephew. To anyone watching, she seemed like someone quietly dealing with family hardship, but beneath that calm surface, something deadly was taking form. People who knew her later told police that she'd changed. She pulled away from friends and stopped socializing. By early 2008, she'd quit going to the church she'd attended for years. At the office, she started asking co-workers odd questions about how the courthouse operated and what shifts employees worked. She claimed she was thinking about applying for a position there, but her real interest was something else entirely. Her focus had narrowed to a single target. Her patience was limitless. The strongest proof of what she was planning came from data saved automatically on her personal computer. Between February and March 2008, her browsing history told a disturbing story. The searches were clear and specific. How much cyanide is lethal? Where to buy potassium cyanide? Cyanide detection time, and undetectable poisons. Every search term was another step toward murder. But what Denise didn't realize was that each one was also creating evidence that would eventually destroy her. Denise Poole had studied Judge Harwood's habits and schedule, but pulling off her plan required help from someone on the inside. That person turned out to be Sharon Vickers, a 33-year-old who worked behind the bar at the Crescent Room. 3 weeks before the murder, in late February 2008, Poole waited outside the bar until Vickers finished her shift. She introduced herself as Raymond Poole's aunt and got straight to the point. According to what Vickers later told authorities, Poole offered her $2,500 in cash to slip something to make him sick into Judge Harwood's drink. Vickers turned her down but didn't contact the police. Poole didn't give up. She came back 2 more times, raising her offer to $5,000. While Vickers insisted she refused to actually put anything in the judge's drink, she did agree to something else. The arrangement they finally settled on was straightforward. Vickers wouldn't poison anyone herself, but she'd act as a lookout for payment. She agreed to text Denise when Judge Harwood was sitting at his regular spot and when the bar was empty enough that Poole could act without being seen by other customers. Later, Vickers told investigators she never thought Poole would actually go through with it and that she was scared Poole might come after her if she went to law enforcement. Whether she was a scared bystander or a willing accomplice remains debatable. Either way, her agreement made everything that followed possible. The morning of Tuesday, March 18, 2008, the plan went into motion. Sharon Vickers sent Denise Poole a text message. It said, "He's here. 2 other customers left. Just me and Kitchen." And that Poole arrived at the Crescent Room less than 20 minutes later. She took a corner table near the hallway that led to the bathrooms, ordered coffee, and waited. Security cameras recorded what happened next over the following 40 minutes. Judge Harwood sat by himself, drinking bourbon. He downed 3 glasses. His movements became slower and more labored. At 10:35 in the morning, he put his head down on his arms and appeared to fall asleep right there at the table. This was the moment Poole had been waiting for. At 10:42, the camera captured her getting up from her seat and walking to where Harwood sat. The footage shows her standing beside his table for roughly 30 seconds, her hand briefly moving above his glass. Everything she did was measured and deliberate. When she finished, she walked back to her own table, and 6 minutes later, at 10:48, she left the establishment. During these crucial minutes, Sharon Vickers wasn't anywhere to be seen on the main floor. Everything was in place now, but whether the plan succeeded depended entirely on the judge. He stayed motionless at his table, with a poisoned glass of bourbon sitting just within reach. More than an hour passed with Judge Harwood slumped at his table. At 12:37 in the afternoon, Sharon Vickers approached him. She tried shaking him awake and calling his name, but got no response. She checked for breathing and found none. At 12:39, she called emergency services. EMTs showed up 7 minutes after the call. What they walked into didn't immediately look like a crime scene. The victim was a regular customer known for drinking heavily, found unconscious inside a bar. Paramedics declared him dead at 12:52 p.m. Their initial conclusion was cardiac arrest, probably worsened by excessive alcohol consumption. But certain details didn't match that straightforward explanation. The first responders noticed physical signs that seemed off. The judge's lips and fingernails showed a distinctive bluish coloring, a condition called cyanosis, and there was slight foaming around his mouth. His skin felt cold. These weren't the usual signs of a heart attack. Mobile police department officers secured the location, and Vickers gave her first statement. She said Harwood had been drinking by himself all morning and that she hadn't seen anyone go near him. The bourbon glass on his table, still half full, was collected as routine procedure, and the security footage was seized as evidence, though nobody had reviewed its critical contents yet. 2 weeks after Judge Harwood's death, the case changed from a suspected medical emergency to a murder investigation. The official autopsy report came back from the Mobile County Medical Examiner, and what it revealed was conclusive. Toxicology analysis detected a lethal amount of sodium cyanide in the judge's blood. The same poison was discovered in what remained in the bourbon glass taken from his table. This discovery forced investigators to re-examine everything with fresh eyes. Detectives immediately pulled up the security recordings from the Crescent Room. The low-quality video provided their first major breakthrough, a clear shot of a woman, later confirmed to be Denise Poole, walking up to Harwood's table and tampering with his glass. Her identity was verified when external cameras showed her vehicle parked a block away, with license plates registered under her name. With the primary suspect now identified, attention shifted to the bartender. Sharon Vickers was called in for another interview on March 22nd. This time, detectives showed her phone records documenting numerous calls and text messages between her and Poole in the weeks before the murder. Faced with this proof, Vickers dropped her original version of events. She confessed to the arrangement, acknowledging that Poole had paid her to report when the judge would be alone. But she insisted she had no idea Poole planned to use poison and thought Poole just wanted to confront him verbally.
Investigators now had everything they needed: a clear motive, video evidence of the suspect at the scene, and a cooperating witness who confirmed the suspect's intentions.
Denise Poole was taken into custody at her residence on March 25, 2008 and charged with capital murder. She immediately invoked her right to remain silent and refused to speak with investigators. The case went to trial in November 2008, built entirely on circumstantial evidence, but the prosecution's narrative was powerful and well organized. They demonstrated motive by presenting Judge Harwood's decision to impose the maximum sentence on Poole's nephew Raymond. They introduced her internet search history as digital proof of premeditation, showing a systematic effort to find a deadly and hard-to-detect poison. The security footage from the Crescent Room served as the visual cornerstone of their case, placing Poole at the victim's table exactly when it mattered. Finally, Sharon Vickers' testimony, granted immunity for her cooperation, supported the timeline and confirmed that Poole had orchestrated the entire setup. Poole's court-appointed defense lawyer, Charles Brandt, argued that a convincing story wasn't the same as concrete evidence. He highlighted the prosecution's biggest vulnerability: no physical evidence directly connected his client to the sodium cyanide. Investigators found no trace of the poison in her house, her vehicle, or her belongings. He claimed her internet searches were the result of grief and rage, not a killer's preparation. He maintained that the security footage was unclear and didn't definitively prove she put anything in the glass. The defense's strategy was simple. Without the actual poison or proof of purchase, the case relied on assumptions, not certainty. The jury took 6 hours to reach their decision. The defense had built their entire argument on one element of reasonable doubt: the lack of physical proof linking Denise Poole to the sodium cyanide. But for the 12 men and women on the jury, the circumstantial evidence the prosecution presented formed an unbreakable chain. The motive was undeniable. The digital record of her research was devastating. The security footage was damning, and the accomplice's testimony confirmed everything. On November 19, 2008, they announced their verdict: guilty of capital murder. The conviction carried the possibility of the state's ultimate punishment. Prosecutors pushed for the death penalty, citing the premeditated and methodical nature of the crime. They argued that this wasn't a crime of passion or sudden rage, but a calculated execution planned meticulously over 2 full years. The defense team argued for life without parole, pointing to Poole's clean criminal record and her devotion to raising her nephew. They painted a picture of a woman driven to desperate actions by grief, and a profound sense of injustice. They emphasize her years of service as a caregiver and her complete lack of violent history. On January 14, 2009, the judge handed down the sentence, death by lethal injection. The courtroom reaction was immediate and emotional. Family members of Judge Harwood wept openly. Denise Poole showed no visible reaction as she was led from the courtroom in restraints, her face expressionless. The other people involved in the case faced lesser consequences, though their lives were forever altered by their roles in the conspiracy. Sharon Vickers took a plea deal for conspiracy charges and received a suspended sentence with 3 years of probation. As part of her agreement, she was required to testify truthfully at trial and cooperate fully with investigators. She left Mobile shortly after the trial concluded and has never spoken publicly about the case. Friends who knew her before the incident say she struggled with guilt and depression for years afterward. Raymond Poole's incarceration remained unchanged despite his aunt's actions. He continued serving his sentence at St. Clair Correctional Facility. In 2016, after serving 10 years, he was released on parole. He has steadfastly refused all media requests for interviews and has never made any public statement about his aunt's crime or his feelings about the sacrifice she made in his name. The case's notoriety also claimed one more casualty. The Crescent Room, unable to shake its association with murder, saw its customer base steadily decline. Despite attempts to rebrand and distance itself from the incident, the establishment's reputation was irreparably damaged. In 2010, it permanently closed its doors. Denise Poole filed multiple appeals challenging both her conviction and her sentence. Every appeal was systematically denied by higher courts. She remains on death row in Alabama as of this writing, one of only a handful of women awaiting execution in the state. The murder of Judge Kenneth Harwood didn't trigger sweeping legal reforms or major changes to judicial policy, but its impact spread through the mobile legal community in ways both visible and subtle. Judge Harwood's well-documented struggle with alcohol dependency, previously an open secret among courthouse staff and local attorneys, became a matter of unavoidable public record during the investigation and trial. Court administrators conducted internal reviews, and draft policies regarding judicial conduct and substance abuse were prepared. However, they were never formally implemented or enforced, largely due to resistance from judges who viewed such measures as intrusive. Several defense attorneys quietly raised questions about whether the judge's impairment might have affected his decision-making in previous cases, particularly regarding sentencing. They pointed to patterns of unusually harsh sentences and questioned whether some defendants had received fair consideration. Despite these concerns, no convictions were ever overturned as a result of these inquiries. The legal system, protective of its own authority and reputation, closed ranks. For the broader public, the case became a disturbing cautionary tale about the dangerous intersection of grief, obsession, and patient, methodical revenge. What made the case particularly unsettling was that Denise Poole defied easy categorization as a monster or career criminal. She was a medical records clerk with no criminal history who worked quietly for years in a hospital. She had raised her nephew with devotion after his mother's death. She attended church regularly and was described by neighbors as polite and reserved. Her transformation over 24 months from a grieving aunt into a calculated killer became a subject of both fascination and horror in local true crime discussions and national media coverage. The case raised uncomfortable questions about justice, revenge, and the human capacity for violence. Was Denise Poole a villain or a victim herself, someone driven to desperate action by a system that showed no mercy to her family? The answers depended on who was asked, and the community remained divided. The case remains officially closed. The conviction stands. Justice, according to the legal system, has been served, but one critical question from the trial has never been answered with certainty. Where and how did Denise Poole acquire the industrial-grade sodium cyanide she used to murder Judge Harwood? Despite extensive investigation spanning months, no purchase records were ever located. No witness ever came forward claiming to have sold or provided her with the poison. No storage facility, no hidden cache, no supplier was ever identified.
The source of the murder weapon remains an unsolved mystery within a solved case. Investigators developed several theories over the years, but none were ever confirmed.
Some believe she obtained it through her work at the hospital, perhaps from a medical supply chain, or through connections with laboratory staff. Others theorize she purchased it through illegal channels online, using encryption and anonymous payment methods that left no trace. Still, others suggested she might have acquired it through industrial contacts, as sodium cyanide has legitimate uses in mining, metal treatment, and chemical synthesis. Denise Poole knows the answer. She has never revealed it. In the years since her conviction, she has maintained absolute silence on this question, refusing all interview requests and declining to provide any clarification, even when offered potential consideration for cooperation. That silence suggests several possibilities. Perhaps revealing the source would implicate someone else she wishes to protect. Perhaps she fears additional charges or complications for others who unknowingly assisted her. Or perhaps, in the end, this final secret is the only power she has left. The one thing the system that convicted her can never take away. The mystery endures, a final unanswered question in a case that shocked a community and destroyed multiple lives in its wake.